we suffer things that are not true. And the mind loves storytelling. These stories that it tells ultimately are not true. They make for good entertainment, but what if you're suffering that story? Ironically, let me share with you a story about my son, who's 7 years old. The other week, he started acting weirdly. That's not really a good word. He started acting up, having multiple tantrums throughout the week, getting angry, rage, anger, temper tantrums, whatever you want to call it. And I could tell that something wasn't right. He'd kind of wake up like that, or after school, and come home like that, and something was off. It wasn't something that happened at school, but something at home. His younger brother, who's 5, had a project in the same week. And my wife was spending more time with the youngest brother, helping him with this project over 3 days to help him make the project, prepare for his presentation. And the older son created this story about how his mother loves his youngest brother more, and that she's spending all this time with him, and it's not fair that she's spending time with him and not with she's spending time with the youngest brother and not with him, and that she doesn't love him. And the story went on, and you can see how it was distorted. Well, maybe you can't see it was distorted yet, but that was his view, the one side of the story. You know how they always say there's always two sides of the story. Meanwhile, he was totally ignoring how she was spending time with him and making sure that he was seen and heard. And of course, the youngest brother had the presentation and the project going on, but she didn't completely ignore him. But that's not how he saw it. He overlooked that when my wife was helping my youngest son with his project, I would take the older brother out, play hockey, catch, take him to the park, and he was hanging out with his older sister as well. So giving him equal one-on-one time and really bonding with him that way, while his younger brother was working on his project. So his temper tantrums continued throughout that week. And he had one in the morning, a meltdown. So I told him that he's not going to go to school with the other siblings, as my wife drove them to school that day. I said, I'll drive them later. give him a little chance to decompress, unwind, and just relax. And when he was relaxed, I then asked him, so what's going on with your behavior this week? And I could see that it was something deeper, but he couldn't, or at least didn't want to look there. So I just kind of guided him into it. I said, does your behavior have anything to do with Mama spending time with Jacob with his project? Right away when I said it, it was like, yeah, yeah, and she's spending so much time with him and it's not fair, and no one's spending time with me. Now he's getting into the victim story. No one sees me, no one hears me, no one spends time, it's not fair, no one loves me, this type of story. And as we got into it, helping him just feel the emotion underneath that story. And he got so angry as he was explaining that story until I guided him deeper beneath the story to really feel those emotions. The pain, the sadness, which he was able to then see that it was actually there underneath the story. Feeling that pain, feeling the sadness. And when he felt it fully, I then asked him after, so do you feel angry? Do you feel like throwing something or destroying something? Because that was sort of the behavioral pattern over the 4 days at home. And he said, no, he doesn't feel angry anymore. And I said, well, do you see how you were able to feel that sadness in your heart? He was able to, I'm giving you the Cole's Notes version, the short version here. He was able to locate that feeling in his body where it felt, what it felt like, pain in his heart, and the sadness. And after he felt it, he felt more relaxed, more open, lighter, and didn't feel that charge, that anger, that rage that he felt. And he was calm. And the story faded. When I was driving him to school, he was very quiet. But quiet because he was at peace with himself. And it's a good example, one, of how we suffer the story and distort reality of what's actually happening. Look how he saw only one view and he created that story. It's like a one-sided story, overlooking how I'm spending time with him and creating all these special moments with him one-on-one as his younger brother was working on a project with his mother, and completely ignores that, but then focuses on the negative and then creates a whole story about unfairness and being not loved and not seen and not heard and not getting attention and all of that. But in doing so and getting caught up in that story, the anger, the rage that is really a superficial emotion is really an emotion that makes us feel a sense of protection, that we guard ourselves, that we protect our heart. We'd rather feel charged and angry and rage because we feel better than wanting to feel what's underneath that armor, what's behind that protection. The loneliness, the sadness, whatever it is, the loss, the grief. And yet when we get in touch with our emotions, soften, yield, be more yin-like, be more like water. We put out that fire of anger. It's no more there. I don't feel angry anymore. I don't feel enraged anymore. Because we are able to go beneath the story. There's always something deeper than the story. The story is superficial. And if we stay at the level of the story, if we get tangled in the story, it becomes this loop, repeating the story over and over and over. But then by just relaxing, calming, we're able to sink below the surface of the superficial story and really feel the emotion that's underneath it, to go deeper where we don't want to go. It's sort of like this emotion that's hidden underneath it because that story conceals it. We don't really know it's there until we have the courage to look. So as I encouraged him to see what's underneath it through relaxing and looking, then we were able to feel that sadness, that pit in the heart space, the loneliness, the grief. We can label it all we want, whether it's not being seen, not being heard, not getting attention, not feeling loved. It's not necessary to give it a label. We don't want to fall in the trap of now creating a story about it, but it's more important to just locate it in the body, bring the awareness to the sensations in the body, stay in the body and feel it fully, opening up to it, allowing it to be there without any resistance. And that resistance is tricky because the resistance actually is the story. When we stay in the story, it's looping over and over and over, and we never actually get to what's below the surface, what's beneath the surface. And what's beneath the surface is that painful emotion, that pain that we don't want to feel. We'd rather feel angry, take that anger out on our family members. We'd rather feel the rage that becomes destructive, destroys our own home that we live in, our relationships, the people that we love. And you see that when we're actually able to get in touch with our soft side and be more soft, yield, surrender to these emotions, then we're able to open up and feel them fully. Hello. And feel those emotions fully, so that those emotions don't have us acting up in a reactive way. What was just happening was the reactivity to not wanting to feel, that reactivity, that resistance to not wanting to feel that pain. But in feeling that pain, he wasn't reactive. He wasn't acting up anymore that week, and felt a lot more peaceful, because we can say it like this: on the other side of that pain is the peace that you are. In the heart of that pain, if you feel that pain so fully, so deeply, then I could say it like this: at the center of that pain, you don't find more pain. You find peace. You find love. You find happiness. You find freedom. You find harmony. Like all these different words. That pain is not made of pain. It's made of what you are. And it sounds very counterintuitive. But you find yourself in the heart of that pain. But if we're afraid to open our heart, if we're afraid to put down the sword and the shield that protects our heart from being opened, and we don't go deeper, if we don't make that journey from mind to heart and explore the depth, then we don't discover ourselves. We don't discover what we're seeking outside of ourselves. We don't discover what we're trying to fight for. Just like a lot of people trying to fight for peace. You can't fight for peace. I mean, you can, but it doesn't work. That peace is what you are. It's found within you. And for the one that's found that peace and discovered that peace as their true nature, they don't feel like fighting. Definitely not for peace, that is. So, hopefully you maybe got some insights from me sharing that story. Maybe you can apply it to your own life, integrate that lesson within yourself. Hopefully it encourages you to maybe read the signs of the resistance, the reactivity. Maybe it invites you to go deeper. And I know I gave you the short version of the story, and I left out a lot of the key details into, or as to how I was able to guide my son deeper and into the body and feel those emotions fully and ultimately transform it. And if you're ready to be guided, then I invite you to join me on the journey of truth.